government, who's speaking first?
Good.
Opening opposition,
Mando.
closing government, and closing opposition.
Boba.
Just one more question. When he's having his speech, to stop recording.
Yes.
Start me recording, both audio and video.
Okay.
And what is the name of other speaker in closing government? Martin.
Marco.
Okay, I call on the Prime Minister to open the debate.
Okay, can I start? Thank you, Madam Speaker, for the floor. Firstly, I would like to explain two things which are present today. First of all, football is the most watched sport in Western Europe. Almost everyone watches it, and even if they don't, they know something about it. It has great media coverage. Everyone knows about football players' lives, football scandals, football transfers. Anything connected with football is really out there. It's really in the media. You can easily learn about it, and even if you don't have any interest in it, you can still you something about that. The second thing I want to explain is that homosexuals are today still really discriminated. They have some rights, granted, they have some rights, but still they do not have full rights as heterosexual people. And it is believed, it is stereotyped that the gay community, that gay men aren't good at sports. So moving on to the points which I will explain in this debate. The first one is the influence. So as I mentioned, everyone watches football. Football has really great, really wide media coverage. No, thank you. It has really great and big media coverage, so people will know everything about this, as I said. So when some famous football player comes out, for instance, I don't know, Cristiano Ronaldo. I'm not saying he is gay, but if he was, he comes out, he says, I'm gay. And some gay kids, which are football fans, say, okay, he's my hero, he's my idol, I look up to him. If he could do it, if he could come out of the closet, then I can also do it. I can also... No, thank you. No, thank you. If he can do that, I could also do that. I could probably also have the strength to come up to my parents, my friends, my, I don't know, acquaintances and say, yes, I am gay, yes, yes, I am coming out of the closet. No, thank you. The second thing I would like to address is breaking the stereotypes that gay men are not manly enough, that gay men are not strong or dominant enough to do sports. And I think that if some gay football players come out and say that they are gay, that it will automatically make a statement that, okay, if some famous football player comes out and someone from the people will think, oh, he's a great football player, he makes, I don't know, £40,000 a year, and he has a great salary, he has a great life only by playing football, I can also do it. I can also be I can also be a football player, I can also be a professional sports person, I can also be good at sports, I can also strive into something, not only sports, but in all aspects of life. If some gay men are not certain that they could be good at something and that they could strive at something which they love and which they prefer to do in their life, I think it... Yes, please?
Do you think that the act of spreading the motion of legalization of gay marriages, etc., is a political matter?
The act of spreading... yes, to some extent it is a political matter, but if we do address it only as a political matter, common folk won't hear it, and common people won't be able to understand it on such a great level. It will be only like theoretical. If we have examples in the public, then those other people, those common folk will start to think that it is a normal part of the society, as it is. Take, for example, famous singers like Elton John or Ricky Martin, which have come out and which are gay, and it has not hurt their success. They are still successful in their field. They are still for their work. They are
Sir.
no, thank you. They are still really successful. They still strive in their field. They still have. They are somewhat of even musical authorities in their field. Okay. Anyway, I digress. Yes, please.
Don't you think that they have different audience?
They have a somewhat different audience, but all gay men have their taste in music, and all gay men have their taste in something else. They can watch sports. It doesn't matter. Yes, that is they are different spheres, but even more so, because if they see, okay, in two spheres, okay, there are gay men who have come out in music, and there are now gay men who have come out in sports, particularly football. It will show them that gay men and the LGBTQ community is present everywhere, and it has to act. It must act on such level because no, thank you. Because it is, as I said. Because, as I said, all these public persons in general have great media coverage, and they have great potential to give a message to people, not only gay people, but all people, to tolerate and to be tolerant of others, regardless of their sexual orientation. No, thank you. To be proud of what they are, and to not be afraid to come out and to say, yes, I like this, or no, I don't like that. And thank you for the speech.
Thank you, Prime Minister, for this fine speech, and call upon the leader of the opposition to open the case of the opposition.
In order to understand this debate, we have to understand certain things that are implied by this motion. Firstly, we need to understand the audience behind football matches. We need to understand the social interactions between players, between coaches and players, their ideologies and their perspective and their state of minds, in order to understand completely this motion. Firstly, I'm going to do the rebuttal of the three things in 3 points, and then I will present you the argument that goes to show that target audience is the one who will not be approval of the implementation of this motion. And secondly, I'm going to show you what the impact will happen on that player who comes out. So firstly, the rebuttal. What the first government says to us is that gay kids will see their idol, and it will maybe encourage them to come out. We find this problematic on a level that the side of government does not, when they're telling us that discrimination of gay people is very big, they're not showing us how exactly that discrimination will not occur when these gay kids come out. If discrimination of gay kids is a big problem, then we need an answer. How will that discrimination be changed if a gay football player comes out and says it is alright to be gay? How will that have an impact on the values of that community and of the society they live in? Secondly, a second point of rebuttal is that it will encourage gay kids to become more sporty, to actually engage with sports. But we think that this statement doesn't have isn't true, because you are playing sports because you're good at sports. Your sport is not based on your sexuality. Your sport isn't you have to become good at sport in order to succeed. It doesn't mean that somebody will start playing sports just because their favorite sports person has come out and claimed that he or she is gay. And the third, they're telling us, but if Ricky Martin and Elton John did it, then everybody else should do it. But it isn't the same environment, it isn't the same situation. Why? Because you have different audience, because you have different values behind that audience, which brings me to my first argument, which is the target audience of the football. That means that, for instance, Ricky Martin and Elton John tend to have more liberal audience, the one who are accepting certain values much easily. But in case of football, you have really, pretty much, on a vast majority of cases, you have conservative and right-wing audience. No, thank you. You have an audience that is identifying themselves with their club. That means they're identifying basically with the values that club promotes. That, for instance, if you're a fan of Glasgow Rangers, you're in vast majority of cases more likely to be Protestant, and if you are a fan of Celtic, you will be Catholic. That just goes to show you that people identify with the values of the club that they promote. And no, thank you. Which still means, and that still means that most clubs do promote that traditional values, and most fans are the ones who are conservative, are the ones who do not approve ideas of the liberal world that are happening, and that audience isn't the one who is going to accept those players, and that will have an impact on that fans who will say, you betrayed our club, you betrayed our sport, you betrayed our values behind that club, and this is what we find problematical in this situation. They will, for instance, if a Celtic, who is a very Catholic club, and a lot of their fans are really, there are a lot of Catholics, if somebody in Celtic comes out and says, you know what, I'm gay, it will have an impact on that audience who are going to target that person because they betrayed their club, they betrayed their person, and you will have a really bad public discourse towards that person, and it will have a really negative impact on that person, which is not something as a side of opposition we want to happen. Secondly, I'm going to talk to you about the impact on the player that is going to happen. Because we feel that this situation where you have a lot of conservative people and a lot of players actually a lot of players in sports tend to be even more conservative. You have that, for instance, when there was a referendum on gay rights in Croatia, a lot of football players were actually promoting conservative ideas and were the ones who were encouraging those conservative ideas to be really important. Yes?
Don't you believe that this needs to change? If we accept that the audiences are conservative and very right-wing, isn't this the problem
that implies that we are setting those football players as victims because we want to change the world or do something, but we do not approve of actually having bad consequences on that person, because that person is the one who is going to be I wouldn't say maybe abused, but will be a little bit of I don't know, it will have a negative impact on in a discourse with their teammates, in their discourse with with judges, even on a football field, where the judges will maybe find a situation when that person is publicly gay and he falls, and they will say, oh, but he is just simulating, he wants mine, I don't know, my benefit of a doubt to sort of help him to say that that was a foul, and provides and gives in a judge, referee, a sort of maybe statement that that isn't really what is happening on the football field. So for all these reasons, we beg to oppose. Thank you.
I then would like the leader of the opposition for his speech, and I call upon the Deputy Prime Minister to continue the government.
So, thank you for the floor, Madam Speaker. What I will do for you in this debate, show you how the case of the opposition is based on presumption that we are it's false. I will go further with rebuttaling their case, and then explain the second part of our case and the social picture that will openly gay football players make in our society. So the first presumption they're making is that all football fans, or a vast majority of football fans, are right-wing or conservative. First, we see no evidence for this, and secondly, we believe this is simply not true. As we explained in the first 10 seconds of our Prime Minister's speech, is that football is very, very, very big. So, if it's something is very big in the Western Europe, and we see that in the Western Europe, not most of the people are conservatives, we can even say it's somehow half conservative liberal, and if the big amount of people watch football, we cannot assume that most of the football players and most of the football fans are right-wing or are very conservative in this way. We believe this is stereotyping the football as a game, and we believe it is simply not true. They're talking about conservative audience who will not accept the player if they were gay. And then the second thing, they're talking about identification with the clubs and identification with the club values. So let's take an example what will happen in real life if this occurs. So we have a player playing, for example, for Glasgow Rangers, as they stated, or Celtic was the other club they were talking about. So we have a gay Celtic football player that comes out and says openly to his fans, to his co-players, to his coach, to wide public, I am gay. What will happen next? What will be? Of course, that will be some negative reaction. As in any other situation, when someone comes out, there are some negative reactions. But most of the football fans will say, oh my God, you score 5 goals a game, we love you, we need you in our club because we are winning because of you, you're a good player, no thank you, I will accept you. And then if we have identification with club, if the club openly supports their gay player, and they will openly support the gay player because he's making them money, and that's why the clubs exist, to earn money, they're also profit organizations, and if they accept it, the audience will say, yeah, okay, I'm identifying, no thank you, with my club values. My club values are accepting people even if I'm not agreeing with them, even if I think it's okay, football is first there. Because you don't choose your favorite club on the basis of what do they believe in, or on the basis of what are their players. You don't choose your favorite player because, oh my God, I'm blonde, he's also blonde, or oh my God, I'm Christian, he's also Christian, he'll be my favorite football player. You choose your favorite football players because they play football good, because they play football in the way you want to watch it. And if your favorite football player says you're gay, it's not going to change your perspective on how he plays football. What we're talking about, breaking stereotype, is that truth is, even in the Western countries where most people are not very discriminatory through gays anymore, even in those countries there is this stereotype that gay people aren't good in sport, that gay men are not manly enough to play man's sport as football. And what is this showing? If you have a football player that makes 30 million pounds a year by playing football, and you see, oh my God, he's a good player. Then next day he says, I'm gay. The logical conclusion you got in your head, oh my God, he's gay, he's a good football player, he's not any less good because he's gay. Gay people can play sports. We're not talking about that all gay boys will become football players because Cristiano Ronaldo says he's gay, but we're telling that this wider public will accept the fact, subconsciously or consciously, that gay people can be good and sports. No thank you. Then there's this example of Croatian football players But the funny thing is that the motion says Western countries. I believe that none of us could put Croatia into any kind of Western countries, Western democracies concept, because firstly, it's a transitional country. Secondly, it's a country deeply, deeply crisis, and country that has that still has not achieved human rights for all of their citizens. Set aside this liberalization of society. No, thank you. And then they're saying we're not going to make our our football players victims. But this motion doesn't implicate that we make all gay football players say we're gay. But it would be good for we're not going to make them, we're not going to force them, but we say it would be good for them, it would be good for the society if they do so. So what we were saying is that no, thank you. That football is very, very influential sport. That everyone watches it. That media covers it all the time. That people are really, really into it, and it's very influential. And if someone comes out at the football. In the football world, people will see it, people will know about it, and subconsciously or consciously, as the time goes, you will accept the fact that he's a football player and he's gay. The whole story about how clubs will fire them or coaches will not let them play because they're gay, it's wrong, because coaches make money on how good they play. If you have a good player, you'll make him play, no matter if he's gay, tall, short, or whatever. You want him, no thank you, to score goals in order for you to have money. And then yes, please now.
Since you agree that the athletic capabilities are actually the most important part of the football, what's the actual benefit that we're going to gain from a football player declaring himself as a gay person?
We're not going to gain any benefit in football world. Football will not become any better, but the society will learn how to accept. The society will understand that this stereotype, no thank you, is wrong. Society, people who are afraid of coming out will say, oh my God, he's so influential, he's so big, he came out, I can do so. What we were talking about, the social picture. In society, every public person that comes out shows a certain amount of activism, because it's a very, very big thing. Even one person when it comes out, it's a big thing. Why? Because we're not still aware how many people around us, how many people in our lives are gay. When people start coming out, you start to you make conscious the fact that people are gay. You start to accept them, because if you like them before, the thing that the knowledge of them being gay, and in sports it's completely, it's even more important than in music, because if you like the way they're playing, you will like the way they're playing after they become gay. So for all these reasons, we beg you to propose.
I thank the Deputy Prime Minister for her speech, and I call upon the Deputy Leader of the Opposition to continue the case for the side of the opposition.
Ladies and gentlemen, the second speaker of the opening government said that no, football will not become any better, and she was absolutely right. And why that is true? Because the target audience, the football fans that you want to make an impact on, are not going to become any better, because they're not going to change their values simply because a player of their club has said that he is gay. They will simply decide that he has betrayed the values of their club and continue believing what values are far more deeply ingrained than simply what the football club represents. This is what I'm going to show in my speech. After that, I'm also going to expound furthermore on the idea what are the impacts on the player as an individual, and why there's a very damn well good reason why most gay players are not outing today. And I'm also going to tell you that it's quite a bad atmosphere for them to out when the most important organizations in football, the UEFA and FIFA, are not in support, because their presidents are not in support of gay people outing, and such are also the presidents of the most influential clubs in the football world, because they have also such conservative values. But before that, I want to have a few points of rebuttal on what has been said. Firstly, they say that there is no evidence that football fans are right-wing or conservative. Okay, that proves only that opening government doesn't watch football. Football is the sport that has quite the most problems with fascist fans, and furthermore has the most campaigns against fascism, against racism. Where in Stamford Bridge, Old Trafford, the greatest temples of football in the country that invented Western football, football, Samuel Eto'o and such footballers are being booed. Why? Because they are black. Because you have racism between the players of Manchester United, Liverpool, Manchester City, and the greatest clubs in England, greatest clubs in France, where the fans of Paris Saint-Germain boo black players of Olympique de Marseille. Why? Simply because they are black. Where you have fights because of patriotism, because of nationalism, or fans from Milan are prepared to have a fight with fans from Genoa simply because they're from different cities. And this is how deeply these conservative values are ingrained in football. And you have no evidence to counter that. Because if that's happening, if UEFA has to invest millions in campaigns against racism and still cannot stop racism from the vast majority of football fans, if Dani Alves gets thrown a banana at the Santiago Bernabeu Stadium, then you definitely have a problem. Now, secondly, when you're talking about football players outing themselves as gay, now, football fans are a fickle crowd. They're prepared to hate a player that they consider to be perfect just a day before when he transfers to their rival, prepared to call him an idiot, prepared to consider him quite a bad player. Football fans in England, as well as the media, the entire media in England, were prepared to have a nationwide wave of hating towards David Beckham simply because he missed a penalty. Where David Beckham was afraid to come out of his house, where they had pigs in stores with the name Beckham on them, and the main fun was to pick a rifle and shoot at David Beckham the pig. Why? Because he missed a penalty. Now, if football fans are prepared to do that, if football fans are prepared to physically hurt players simply because they transfer to a rival, simply because they missed a penalty on the pitch, then they're quite prepared to fight for their values. Because what's going to happen if a Celtic player, the player of quite a Catholic club, is going to out himself as gay? The fan is not going to say, oh, all my values are wrong, I'm not going to be a Tory anymore, I'm not going to be conservative anymore because Henrik Larsson or whoever decided he is gay. No, he's going to say, you betrayed your club. Just as that player who transferred to Glasgow Rangers betrayed his club, just as that player who said, I don't know what statement in the media betrayed his club, you also betrayed my club and I don't care about you anymore. You're not a player I'm going to respect anymore. And of course, you do not choose players for their sexuality, but the moment when you know about their sexuality, the moment when you believe that something is against your values as a person, and these values are not only influenced by football, they're perhaps the least influenced by football, you're not going to change your opinion. You're simply going to dismiss him as a person. Perhaps you're going to acknowledge that he's good at sports, but you're going to dismiss him as a person. And your burden of proof is to show that this is going to be good for solving discrimination on a larger scale, that you are able to change the target audience. And this is something that you have not chosen. So the case is not whether gay people can or cannot play sports. The case is whether you can change the situation, and you do not fulfill your burden of proof. Now, I'm going to prove this firstly through expounding further on the point of individuality and how this affects the individual. Now, not only has Manuel mentioned that it's a discourse between players and you can feel bad if your players or teammates do not accept you, but it's also impact on your professional career. So you make the huge presumption, hypocritically accuse us, that all the players, the coaches, the judges, the people who are sitting in the FA boards are going to be perfectly tolerant of you. That's the presumption you're making. Now, if this presumption is not true, there's a huge impact on the professional career of a player, on the transfers that he can make, on how managers are going to treat him, on how his coach is going to give him chances or not give him chances. This is something that's incredibly important in the world of football. And this is something that can impact a player. And also the psychological aspect of being maltreated, not only by the fans who are not going to accept you, but also by your professional environment, is something that players avoid. And that's why there's a damn well good reason why players are not outed. And this leads me to my second substantive point. Now, today, you have Joseph Blatter, you have Michel Platini, who are the presidents of UEFA and FIFA, and also people who have openly declared themselves as anti-gay. When you have presidents of the most important football organizations in the world declaring themselves as anti-gay, that means that inside the football world, you do not have even the support of organizations that can invest money, in the promotion of gay rights. And now, if you know that the media and the fans are ready to create a wave of hating, and if you know that the very president of your organization, the organization that organizes the Champions League, is also going to be against you, then very well, you're not going to have a good atmosphere to out yourself. Not to mention that the rich owners of the clubs, who own the most important clubs in the Western world, are also most often conservative people. And most of them, if they do out their values, they out their values as being anti-gay. And rare are the presidents, if there are any, who have outed themselves as being pro-gay. This is an atmosphere that can only create a sort of lynching towards the players, because not even those who are most important in society are going to promote their values. Yes, go ahead.
Don't you believe that this problem should be tackled, that this problem should change and should become in process of change?
Sure, the problem should be tackled. Sure, the problem should be changed. But what you need to prove, as the government, which is your burden of proof, to show us how can you change the values of the majority that is anti-gay through football. Because if we know these values are far more deeply ingrained, are ingrained through how you're being raised in your family, or being ingrained through the values that you're being taught, for example, at school, then is it not better to start from there? Is it not better to start from education, to start educating people from a young age that being gay is okay, that you not hate against gay people, that the values of your country, that the country itself promotes that being gay is okay. Now at that moment, you as a person, if you can become more liberal through education, you're going to be more liberal in football. Now, football and the way football fans act are simply a reflection of their own personal values. Football does not change someone's values. People simply identify with certain values because they recognize these values in a football club. But their values themselves are not influenced by football. And because of this, because you have not fulfilled your burden of proof, because you're only going to make life harder for the people who work hard every day to earn money to be football players, we are proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank the leader of the opposition for his speech, and I call upon the member of government to hold his vacancy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, what we want to do on our side of the House today is sum up what happened in the first half of the debate, tell you why exactly we believe that gay people should come out they are gay, and how this will improve the situation at the moment. Okay, so on the side of opposition here today, we are getting the notion that the audience of football fans is not changeable, right? It's some right-wing conservative, racist, a homophobic crowd. We generally believe this is not the case. Yes, there are homophobes, yes, there are racists, but there are racists also in the communities that support other sports. There are racists also in the communities that support some kinds of music. So this is the minority. The majority of people are people like me. I'm a huge football fan, and I also support gay rights. The majority of people are normal, everyday people that can be influenced. And this is proven by the example that before, black people could not compete in football matches, now they can. And you're getting at those examples that, for example, if a player says, well, I am gay, that his price will drop, his coach will not let him play. This was actually the same with black people, and actually didn't happen when they became acquainted to the sport. Black people at the moment cost as much as white people. They are not discriminated just because of their color. They are not discriminated just because they are a certain difference. No. The other thing that we want to say is that we do have a benefit also in terms of football, not only in terms of society. Because what you have at the moment is various gay young children who do not go into football because they fear the discrimination, because they fear that no one would accept them. And why do they believe that? Because actually no one is coming out and saying, we will accept you, we are gay, we stand for those rights, and we accept you as a whole. It is the same with straight people who don't want to become, for example, hairdressers, or male straight people who don't want to become ballerinas. They're afraid of discrimination. But if what actually happens is a straight male, a person who is a ballerina, who is successful, comes out and says, this is okay, I am a good person, there is nothing wrong with being a ballerina and being straight, then it will be okay. And children will aspire to that. Children will see that, the general audience will see that you can be successful, you can be a football player if you are gay, and there is nothing stopping you. We gave, opposition on the side gave various examples about how people boo, how audiences in England, in the Western world, boo black people. And they gave us a few examples. The example with Dani Alves, for example. Why didn't this happen, I ask, against, in the match against Sevilla? Why did it happen in the Real Madrid versus Barcelona match? Why did the other thing with Samuel Eto'o happen in the Stamford Bridge game when he was from Barcelona? The fact of the matter is that the fans of football teams discriminate against each other, right? They tackle each other on the battlefield, which is the stadium. What happens here is they don't discriminate a person being black. They don't discriminate their own black players, because I can tell you, I'm a Chelsea fan, and Didier Drogba, who is a black player, has never been booed at the stadium. He has never been discriminated in any way, shape, or form. And this is what will happen in our stadiums also when other players say, I am gay, this is okay. The fact of the matter is, the opposition boos the black person or the gay person of the other team. The person that the player belongs to who is gay will never boo its own player. Why? Because the people want their team to do well. They want their team to win. The team is more important than the individual, right? Because individuals come and go, coaches come and go, individual players come and go, but the values of the team stay. And the values of the teams are the most important thing that we want to defend today. I will take opening.
So even if you can claim that because the perception of blacks changed due to other reasons, one is not going to book his own black player. How can you claim the same for gay players? Can you claim the same for the vast majority of people or for the most ardent fans of the club?
I can't claim the same for gay players because of the same situation. Black people were discriminated before, they are not discriminated now. What happens is black people have been accepted, they cause the same as white people, and there is literally like very few examples of discrimination within the confines of stadiums. But moving on to our substance, ladies and gentlemen. Why we believe that gay football players have a moral obligation to intervene, and why are they the only ones who will be effective in doing so? Opposition here stays, and they tell us there is a problem, there are discriminative people, there are people who are homophobes, there are people who want to harm gay people, and they say nothing, they say no model, they bring us no model how to fix this problem. Well, we bring you on the side of sexuality, we tell you, if those people come out and say, I am gay, this is okay, what happens is the younger audience and the more normal audience, which is the majority, will listen to them and they will generally improve their opinion. This happened with black people, it is absolutely normal, no. Why are the football players the only ones who are going to be effective? Because we heard, well, we can educate young children in the audience and people in general that homosexuality is good. But the fact of the matter is, football players are much more impactful, right? You're not going to sit in education class and say, well, suddenly I don't think this guy is gay, right? It is far more impactful when you see your favorite football player saying that because you have emotion toward him, right? You don't have emotion toward your sex education class or anti-homophobia education class. You believe in this person. You represent their values. And if they come out and say they are gay, this also empowers you. And they have an obligation to do so, no, because they have been living in those circumstances and they know what it is like to be discriminated. And if they don't come out, listen to this, if they don't come out, if they are not the ones who come out and say, well, we are in this community, we are in the toughest community ever, and we are willing to stand here before you and tell you that we are gay, we're willing to face all of the consequences that will follow, and we are willing to represent ourselves in the way we are, then what happens with the other communities that are not so discriminative? What happens with the communities that make music, for example, with metal communities? They will never come out. The fact of the matter is that the footballing community does contain some very conservative people, but if we change the mentality of that community, and the only way to change it is to make footballers come out and explain themselves. If we are able to change that community, all of the other communities will follow because football is viewed as one of the most discriminative sports in general. The other thing that we like to prove in this debate is that we will change the way of thinking of the football fans, okay? Like, football fans will not view the players of their team as betrayers, as traitors, because they have broken some sacred value. The fact of the matter is that most agendas of football clubs are either sporting agendas, so you either follow a sports club because you like the way they play, or second, and the more common, you follow them because of their political agenda. And at the moment, no club in the Western world propagates discrimination against homosexuals, so that is not part of their agenda. You can be Catholic, you can be Protestant, you can be right-wing, you can be left-wing, and still discriminate against gays. But those values that the club represents are political values. There are either left values or right values. There are not values based on discrimination of gays. There is no club in the history that has been founded on the basis of discrimination of homosexuals. So if one homosexual declares that he is gay, that is not going to make him suddenly a traitor or a betrayer of all the values of the club, right? You can still be Catholic and be gay. You can still be Protestant and be gay. You can be right-wing or left-wing and still be gay. So, ladies and gentlemen, we proved to you that the fans will not discriminate against that person that much because he is from their team. They want their team to do well. They want their team to win. We proved to you that gay people and gay football players, because they have so much influence over the younger audience, which is the majority, the only people who can make the difference in the fight against homophobia. We proved to you that we will change the way the football fans think because we have done so with black people and we have done so in the past. And so, ladies and gentlemen, for all these reasons, and because I'm a Chelsea fan and love Didier Drogba, we beg you to oppose.
Thank you, member of the government, for the speech, and I call upon the member of the opposition to continue the case for the opposition.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as a representative of the closing opposition team in this debate, I will tell you 3 things this team doesn't care about in this debate. The first thing is the closing opposition team doesn't care if Platini is gay or not. The closing opposition team doesn't care if there are right-wing or left-wing fans throughout the world and in Western Europe. And we don't care what you think about homosexuality and the ways you want to promote it. We do care, though, about football. We do care about the values that the football as a game is sharing, and we do care about improving the game. Why? First, in this debate, there is only one point on the side government, and that point is that we want to propose this motion solely because we will make it popular and the homosexuality will gain big popularity. But we can say that it depends on the circumstances and it depends on the country you are going to impose it into. For example, there are many right-wing fan groups in Western Europe. For example, 1 week ago there was a big incident in France between right-wing fans and football supporters. That's big enough proof to say to show to you that there are right-wing fans in Western Europe, and that we should take into consideration their opinion also. The main point of the closing opposition in this debate is that you don't want to mess with football. Do you remember the movie Don't Wanna Mess with Johan? Do you remember what happened to the guys that actually messed with Johan? The first point in this debate, from the side closing opposition, we will explain why the football is the most popular game in the world. We will explain what it really stands for. The football is standing for healthier life, for a life full of sport, for life, for active life, and for making your life better and making yourself more active. But football was always separated from politics. What you want to impose is that the political ideas that we want to promote, and the best way to promote them is through football. But we don't think that we should use this game on that way. Why? For example, the football is sharing a value that is far more important than political ideas. Let's see what let's make our imagination active, and let's think what the benefits will be if we do put this political idea in the world of football. Well, there is no actually big benefit from it. So there will be only harms if we do impose this motion. I will explain it how these harms will harm the world of football. What do you think the kids, all those youngsters that want to promote and want to play this game, what do you think that their opinion will be on if we put this political idea in this game? What's next? Okay, let's agree that we should have politics in football. But what's next? Will we promote socialism through football? Will we promote capitalism through football? Will we promote democracy through it? No, thank you. Because it's the same thing. At the end of the day, it's the same thing. The promoting of socialism is a political idea, and the promoting of homosexuality is also a political idea. But let's see why the political ideas should be very different than the ideas shared by football. The very evidence that even the organization, the biggest football organization in this world, is struggling against politics is that FIFA has put on very big restrictions on political ideas. For example, do you remember the incident in Belgrade 2 weeks ago? The incident was caused solely about political ideas and solely about radical ideas. But it's the same thing. The right-wing political idea, the right-wing political idea is equal to idea of promoting the homosexuality. And we can agree that football is very popular and that we can share political ideas through it and that they will have a really big impact in our society. But do we really want to make the football a platform for sharing political ideas? We think that we should save the football as a game that promotes values of peace, that promotes values of healthy life, and that promotes values of better and peaceful future. And we think that we should exclude all these political ideas from it, solely because it will make it worse.
But we stated before that FIFA itself has this campaign against racism. What is different between racism and discrimination with about gay people?
Okay, so that's a really good example of how this political idea won't have any benefits. The campaign against racism is really old one. But still in Syria, Balotelli is hidden by bananas. That shows that the political idea that is spread through football, it's just not active in this society, and that the football is something different than politics. We think for all these reasons, we think that we should keep football aside from politics, and that we should preserve it for the generations that will be for the generations that want to promote peaceful life, that want to promote life without politics, and that want to play the sport solely because it is a game and solely because it is a sport. Thank you.
I think the member of the opposition for his speech and a call upon the government to
me hold on. Just 1 second, sorry. Okay, can I begin? Excellent. Dear ladies and gentlemen, we don't care if Cristiano Ronaldo is gay, we don't care if Beckham has a fetish for animalism, we don't care if Dani Alvarez wears pink socks, we actually don't care about anything from the personal lives of football players. Why? Because as side opposition and side proposition have irrevocably agreed to date, we just care about the ability of the football players to play football. And this is true for everybody, for the football fans, for the people that don't watch football, for the coaches of the football clubs, for the people that pay the football clubs, for the governments that are hosting the clubs in their own countries, and for everybody on this planet Earth. Nobody in the football world or outside of the football world that watches football actually cares about what the football players are or what their determinations are. So what we're saying today on the side opposition is that this will not change a thing. So in order for us to better understand what we had in this motion today, we will look at this motion from three basic perspectives. From the player, from the perspective of the fans that are directly involved into cheering for the football club, and from the perspective of the gay community, because everybody has forgotten the perspective of the gay community, which is very important here. Now, first and foremost, the only thing that we will agree on from the side of opening proposition is the fact that they said that the football players should actually promote themselves as openly gay if they are gay, and we do agree that here we're not passing a law, we're just looking at what will happen if those players actually out themselves as openly gay players. Now, first and foremost, because we all agreed that we're primarily focused on the ability of a football player to play football, nothing will actually change. They continue to reiterate the reason that people do not have racism nowadays, but that is not any connected to football. People do not have racism because there were political campaigns and because black people were generally accepted into society. After they were accepted into society, they were also accepted in football. So you see, it's the other way around. Football did not change racism, football just adapted to the racist measures that were accepted into politics. That's what we are saying. Nothing will change if we advance gay football players to openly promote that they are gay. What we're saying today is that football players should not in any manner or in any case be implemented into politics, because this is inherently wrong for the club, for the player, and so on and so forth. Now, from the perspective of the player, if a player promotes himself to be gay, first and foremost, there is a high chance the community will forget about that information on the first time he misses a penalty or scores 2 goals. So we have no benefit for the player or for the gay community whatsoever. However, if the player promotes himself, thus a single mistake on a single match in the future, that player will just be badgered even more because of the fact that he is gay and he is a bad football player altogether. So we see only the harms that a football player will endure rather than benefits that the side proposition dreamed that would happen in some kind of utopia in which we do not exist nowadays. Now, secondly, from the perspective of the fans, as has been iterated many times during this debate, the fans actually identify with the football clubs. They do not specifically identify with players unless those players are top-tier players and they win the golden ball or whatever rewards are there in football. And even then, they're just identifying with the players for the reason that they can play football really good, and for the time being that they are at the top of the football chain. But why is this wrong? Because every year we have football players that are being sold and bought in between teams. And every year we have fans that have chosen a football club to cheer for that actually do not give a damn about the players that have left the football club and start loving the players that are in the club. This shows us that people do not necessarily identify themselves with the personal choices of the players. Therefore, they do not identify themselves with their personal lifestyle. They just identify themselves with the capability of the player to play football. They like the player because he can play really good. Nothing else. Before I continue, sir.
Sir, you are saying that if openly that he is gay, he won't be discriminated. He will be discriminated only in the case where he misses a penalty that he will be badgered. So isn't the fact that he misses the penalty will be angry with him, and not the fact that he is gay?
Exactly, you're just proving my point. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything. It doesn't bring anything to the gay community. It can only harm the player. It doesn't change anything for the gay community. There are no benefits whatsoever from the proposition that we see in front of us today. There is no benefit whatsoever. Why would we want gay players to out themselves? Like, because one gay kid somewhere in the country is gonna say, yeah, this person is gay, and then 2 days afterwards forget because he got beat up on the street. Nothing is going to change in the world at large because one player outed that he is gay rather than not in his career. The only outcome of this situation can be the harm of the player. It will not necessarily be to the harm of the player, but we see no benefit whatsoever on the other side. Therefore, we are more likely to assume that the harms are far greater than the benefits when the benefits existed. And thirdly, and most importantly, the gay community. What is the benefit of the gay community in this whole scenario? Nothing. They gain absolutely nothing. Football is a masculine sport. It has been a masculine sport since its inception. It is a masculine sport nowadays. I'm not saying that there are no female players. There are. But nobody in this room, including myself, knows one name of one female player that plays out there. There are female football clubs. There are female football players. They're also good, but nobody wants to acknowledge and promote them. Why? Because they're not as interesting. Because the football fans are primarily conservative. Because the football fans primarily attribute masculinity to this sport. Because football fans do not care what the community at large thinks about politics or the political agenda of any given nation. They just care about the football they know and love. This is why the gay community will gain nothing if a gay player outs himself as gay. Because people that are gay out themselves as gay, and people usually tend to forget, unless they are songwriters or song players, and they start to walk around like blazing transvestites, and people all the time see that they're gay. You cannot all the time see that the player is gay, just for the period of time that he speaks about his being gay. After that, you will forget about it. So what does the gay community benefit? Nothing. What does the community at large benefit? Nothing. Do we change anything in the gay perspective? No. Are the fans going to change? No. Is there any change going to occur? No, nothing will change. We'll just know that that player is gay, and maybe someone will hate him more than others. Some other people will love him, maybe some gay people will start watching football, but all in all, we have no change in the world whatsoever. So ladies and gentlemen, what we have proved to you today is that if football players, top-tier football players from top Western leagues actually out themselves as gay, we have benefits zero. On the other hand, we have harms probably around around the numbering of 100. So what we have shown you today is that no matter if a top-tier football player outs himself as gay, we will have no benefit. We will probably have some potential harms towards the player as an individual, and that's why, because of all these reasons, we strongly beg you to oppose this motion.
We thank the opposition for this speech. All the debaters for the debate. We'll of course shake hands and see you soon. Ili imamo sve kako